Are you a Catholic? How historically reliable is the papal succession? I mean, often Catholics used history to connect their faith to the apostles, but does history really favor them, or do they simply selectively choose a history that favors their narrative? Let's find out in this presentation. Welcome to my channel. Allow me to re-engineer or restructure your beliefs, making it more sound and relatable to known reality. In history, it is in the record that Peter, Linus, Cletus, and Clement died before the end of the 1st century. 50 to 60 years later, the first papal list was recorded by Hegesippus. It has been said that his list may have contained not only the list of bishops, but their duration of pontification. But unfortunately, his original list is lost to us. However, fragments of this list may have been recorded by the next who compiled the list. Irenaeus, in around 170 AD or 180 AD, mentioned fragments of this list, where he accounted that the apostles appointed Bishop of Rome in the order of Linus, Cletus, and Clement, but he did not provide their date of pontification. Tertullian, in around 199 AD, in his prescription against heretics, mentioned that Clement was ordained by Peter as his successor, and according to Tertullian, this is how the Apostolic registries are transferred. So it seems there is a contradiction between Irenaeus and Tertullian. To Irenaeus, the order of bishop in Rome is Linus, Cletus, Clement, but to Tertullian, it was Clement who succeeds Peter. However, likely, they were not in contradiction at all. Take note that Irenaeus did not mention the date, moreover. Just because one is ordained as a bishop, it does not automatically follow that the ordained bishop would be the one to sit on Peter's chair. In Catholic tradition, to qualify for Peter's chair, one must be a bishop first. Then an election of bishops will be conducted on who will ascend to the seat of Peter. So likely Irenaeus' account was just about their order of bishophood, and Tertullian's account was about who succeeded Peter's chair. In an account that follows, Julius Africanus in 222 AD made his chronography using Hegesippus' list. This account of his was used by Eusebius in his History and Chronicle, but he corrected the dates, which means Eusebius has knowledge about the date, but corrected it. Here, we can infer that the date Eusebius used in his chronicle was not the date found in Africanus' chronography. But do we have a way to infer what likely is that date before Eusebius corrected it? Well, yes, this is through Hippolytus, who sees chronology extends to 234 AD. It has been said that the same as Africanus, his source was likely Hegesippus also. So, the date copied by Africanus from Hegesippus should be reflected in Hippolytus's work, since they have the same source. This work of Hippolytus was transported to be what is known as Liberian Catalogue in 354 AD, which in turn was adopted in the Liber Pontificalis of 550 or 650 AD. This document now has the dates which have to be the date that came from Hegesippus, copied by Africanus in 222 AD, then copied by Eusebius in 314 AD, which Eusebius corrected. This work of Eusebius was translated by Jerome in 380 AD. Here, the dates of Linus's pontification became after the death of Peter, giving way to the Catholic tradition that Linus is the second pope who was chosen through an election process. However, if you think about it, why would Eusebius correct the date which he only copied? I mean, if, say, you found a historical document, whatever is in it, one has no business altering it. Fortunately, somehow that original date was reflected in other documents such as Liber Pontificalis. In Liber Pontificalis, the date of Linus' bishophood was from the time of Nero from the consulship of Saturninus and Scipio, 56 AD, until the year when Capito and Rufus were consuls, 67 AD. These dates can provide us with an inference on how we can reconcile the accounts of Irenaeus and Tertullian. If Linus became a bishop from 56 AD to 67 AD when Peter was still alive, then it cannot be that Linus was the second pope. Linus was likely ordained as bishop only, but the one who succeeded Peter may be Clement. But is there a historical proof of this notion? Well, yes. Sometime in the early 3rd century, a Clement to James letter was produced. There it accounted that Clement was the one who succeeded Peter by being directly appointed by Peter himself, not through election. In around 406 AD, Gaudentius Rufinus undertook the translation of Clement Recognitions. There, in his preface, he addresses a seeming contradiction on how then, some men ask, can Clement in his letter to James say that Peter passed over to him his position as a church teacher when Linus and Cletus were bishops of the city of Rome before Clement? Rufinus in his preface has this to say: Linus and Cletus were no doubt bishops in the city of Rome before Clement, but this was in Peter's lifetime. That is, they took charge of the episcopal work while he discharged the duties of the apostolate. He's known to have done the same thing at Caesarea. For there, though B was himself on the spot, yet he had at his side Zacchaeus, whom he had ordained as bishop. Thus we may see how both things may be true, namely how they stand as predecessors of Clement in the list of bishops, and vet how Clement, after the death of Peter, became his successor in the teacher's chair. So you see, the tradition whereby Linus was the second pope after the death of Peter, and the dates by Catholics to which Linus became pope after the death of Peter originated from Eusebius, as it was here that Eusebius corrected the dates. Catholic Encyclopedia did not elaborate further on how the dates were wrong. But likely in Eusebius's time, which was in the 4th century, it was already established that the papacy was not by direct appointment, but through an election conducted by the laity of the diocese. If he sided with Tertullian, he would be in contradiction with the current practice in his time, since Tertullian's account entails direct appointment. But if he chooses Irenaeus as his basis, and since Irenaeus did not give dates of pontification, Eusebius then can assume that Irenaeus was accounting for their bishophood after the death of Peter. Hence he corrected the date favoring their current practice. This is what I see as the most probable explanation for why Eusebius thought the date that he only copied from Africanus was a mistake. However, what he did was tamper with historical records to drive the narrative in their favor. But so what if Clement was chosen by Peter? Did not Clement also become the 4th pope in Catholic tradition? Well, yes also, but that's not really the issue. If Peter really appointed Clement as his successor before he died, then after he died, the bishops under him did not heed this preferred choice of Peter. Rather, they conducted an election only to elect someone whom Peter did not choose. It would come out that the bishops who were supposed to follow Peter as their pope disregarded Peter's authority, or it would come out that the bishops distrust Peter's choice.